In this video, I'm going to be trying to reverse engineer the script of this R46 by taking the script apart a little bit at a time to see what changes, if anything. Basically, I'm trying to figure out which part of the script controls the destination sign so I can make a script for my locomotives. But first, I'm going to show you some changes I made to the destination sign to make it more compatible with the controls.gs script. The locomotives now have a front and rear facing destination sign. Not much has changed about the interior destination signs. They're still capable of displaying up to 4 rows of text. This is the destination sign for the coaches. And of course, this is the exterior destination sign. Now, here are the changes that I made to the destination sign texture to make it more compatible with controls.gs. All the rows of text that are displayable are now on one file instead of on separate files. The top left is what the sign will look like whenever it's blank. The top right is where the information for the front and rear facing destination signs will be displayed. Everything on the left hand side of the texture file is what will appear on the outside destination sign, and everything on the right hand side of the file is what will appear on the interior destination signs. Okay, my initial plan is to take one line of text at a time, in this case thread void DirectionMonitor, and see what happens when it's removed. Basically, I want to place the train on a track and see which feature is lost when this line of text is removed. And then I can document that and say, okay, this line of text means this, and it is required for this function to occur. Now, if you're going to mess with the script, be sure to have a copy of the original version of the script somewhere so that you can get it back if you end up messing it up to the point where it won't work anymore. And that's not really necessary with this specific train because there's a lot of trains on the download station that have this script, so we could just copy it from another train if we had to. Plus, this train is on the download station, so when push comes to shove, we can always just delete it and re-download it, and it would be back to its original form. One thing I've noticed about these scripts is that every single line of text ends in a semicolon. I'm guessing that's how the game knows to switch to the next line of text. And there's also a lot of opening and closing curly brackets, which I guess tell the game this is all in a series of things that have to happen at once or something. Okay, there seems to be, right off the bat, a problem with this plan already. Removing one line of text triggers errors, and errors make the train faulty, and the faulty train cannot appear in Surveyor, so we won't even be able to place it on the track to see what's wrong with it. What this means is I won't be able to figure out what this line of text does because apparently not having this line of text won't allow the train to even appear or be selectable. See, look, when I try to preview it, nothing happens, and now it's labeling it as faulty, which means you won't even be able to view the train to see what's missing. Now, I was hoping the game would see Scriptz as, say, a bookshelf where you could take a book out of that bookshelf, and obviously there's going to be a space missing, but the bookshelf itself will still stand, and you can look at what's missing to see what's supposed to go there, as well as read the book to figure out why it's there. But the game seems to see Scriptz as the book itself, where ripping out a page means there's a lot of information missing and it doesn't know what to do next because of that. In any case, let's remove the word thread and see if we can use that to figure out what it means. Unfortunately, it's still faulty, which means we won't be able to put it on the track to see what's missing when we take out the word thread. That's really sad because I don't just want to know how to put a script together, I want to also know what the words mean so that I'll know how to type up a script when I want to make one of my own. For example, the reason why you can type up a sentence in the computer is because you know what those words mean and you know how to use them in a coherent sentence that someone else can read and make sense out of. I want to be able to do the exact same thing with scripts, but that can only happen if I know what these words mean and what they do. For example, if I'm just blindly copying and pasting lines of text from a script, I could have a lot of junk information that doesn't mean anything and isn't needed, but there's no way for me to know if I don't know what the words mean. Okay, so far we know that you cannot remove thread void direction monitor or the word thread, or else the script will become faulty, but exactly why is still unknown. Let's see if we can figure out what the word void does by removing that. Alright, so far it's looking like no matter what you remove from the script, all it does is create the same vague error of syntax error and parse error, but it doesn't tell you specifically what's wrong with it, or what specifically failed to happen. We might not be able to reverse engineer the script in a way I previously thought. Yeah, it's not going to appear. It looks like the entire script needs to exist at once for it to not be faulty, and removing even one word from it will cause it to completely break down, but in an incredibly vague way where we won't be able to figure out specifically what failed to happen. Well, let's remove the word direction monitor and see if that triggers a special error. It just gives you the same vague error message of syntax error and parse error without telling you specifically what failed to happen. So, like with everything else, removing direction monitor completely destroys the script. What I can't figure out is why though, because I was under the impression that if you remove direction monitor, then things that don't deal with the direction monitor would still work, but just the things that require it to work wouldn't work anymore. For example, the game doesn't care which direction the locomotive is facing in order to change the destination signs, or I would think it wouldn't care about that anyway. So why would I still not be able to use the destination signs because the direction monitor doesn't exist in this script? Apparently it's not as simple as take this function out and things that don't use this function will still work, but things that do use this function won't work. Interestingly, now it has twice as many errors. The third error is function direction monitor not declared, and then it references a different line, and then the fourth error just says parameters, which is very helpful. I mean, that's the least vague thing that I've ever read. This can mean one of two things. Either direction monitor needs to exist for this script to work, or there is somewhere else in the script that is referencing direction monitor, and because of that the error exists once you remove it. It's times like this when I wish the people who wrote these error messages would be more specific. What does parameters mean? I mean, I know what parameters are, but like, it doesn't specify which parameter is triggering the error message. By the way, these two errors appeared when I got rid of the parentheses, the opening and closing parentheses. I'm not really sure why, because there's literally nothing in the parentheses. So you wouldn't think that removing them would cause an error, but apparently they do. So I'm guessing that means there's some kind of invisible stuff inside these parentheses that the script can see that I can't see, that is causing the error to appear when they are removed. But I don't know why or what exactly these parentheses reference. It is really frustrating to me that I can't figure out what these parentheses do. Because, like, there's literally nothing in them. So why would removing them cause the script to not work? Like, what are these parentheses for? Okay, we must add these parentheses with absolutely no information inside them whatsoever, or the script won't work. Exactly why is beyond my knowledge. And also, I've noticed that not every line of text ends in an open and closed parentheses with no information in it. So there's apparently a specific situation where you would need to do this, but exactly what situation that is beyond my knowledge. Now, I'm not going to remove the semicolon because every single line in the script ends in one, so it's pretty obvious that this must exist in order for the game to know to go to the next line of text. Removing a semicolon would probably tell the game to try and read the next row of text as part of the previous row of text. I just realized something. Remember how when I removed those parentheses that had no information inside them, it said error parameters. Notice how where it says set local number, there are parentheses and numbers inside those parentheses. The information inside the parentheses are parameters, and in this case, the parameters are the numbers that the game is allowed to select for the running numbers on these locomotives. In case you're wondering where these numbers come from, according to Wikipedia, the running numbers on this locomotive are 5482 to 6207 and from 6208 to 6258. It looks like when setting the running numbers using a script, the first number you put down is the first digit that is allowed to appear in the running numbers, and the second number you put down is what's allowed to appear behind the first digit on the low end, and the third number you put down is what's allowed to appear behind the first digit on the high end. The reason why there's no 6 for the 6000 series is probably because you can't choose more than one first digit. But in the next part, I'm actually going to try to change these numbers to see what happens. So when there are parentheses with no information in them, that probably means that the person entered something that requires parameters, but they didn't specifically need the game to select any particular parameters for this one. So they just left it blank, which means that the game can just choose whatever it wants for those parameters. In fact, to see if that's true, I'm going to leave the numbers section blank in the next video to see if it randomly selects any number for the running numbers. By the way, sometimes when you fix something and it's no longer faulty, it'll still appear as faulty on the list because it didn't update yet. But as long as you review the errors and warnings and there are no errors, then it's not faulty. Now, there's one last thing I want to test before we leave, and that is, does it matter which order the lines of text go in? Because ever since I was a kid, I always wondered, how exactly do the people who write these texts actually know which order to put the rows of text in? But now I'm thinking maybe I should be asking, does it even matter which order these rows of text go in? So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take two rows of text and then swap them to see if it actually changes anything about the script. So basically, I'm going to take these two paragraphs and swap them so that the one that's on the bottom is on the top and the one that's on the top is on the bottom, to see if that changes anything about how the script works. Is the script still going to work with these two rows of text swapped in different places? And if it still works, that means that it doesn't matter what order the rows of text are in. It just matters that they all exist. Alright, let's see if the script still works with these two rows of text completely swapped. It's not faulty and it doesn't have any errors, so as far as the game is concerned, this is still a perfectly functioning script, even with two paragraphs swapped, and the locomotive still appears in the game. But does the script still work the way it's supposed to with these rows of text swapped? To test that, I'm going to have to go in driver and actually try to use it to see what happens. So far, changing those paragraphs so that they're in different places didn't change anything about the script. The game still knows that the front car has to have the headlights on, and that when you attach another car behind it, those headlights should be off. As far as whether or not the taillight should be illuminated, we'll have to actually go in driver to know that, because the game doesn't really do a lot of stuff that require animation while you're in Surveyor anymore, which I'm guessing was done to make Surveyor a lot faster, because in the past it used to be very choppy when you put a train on the ground. I'm also going to place a second train down and have the first train coupled to the second one to see if the game will know to turn the headlights off when the trains are coupled together. And I'm also going to derail it to see if it knows to turn the headlights off when the train derails, because that's also included in the script. You know, now that I think about it, does it even make sense to turn your headlights off if you're derailed? Because, like, wouldn't it make more sense to keep them on so that you can mark your current location? Like, that would probably make it easier for emergency crews to spot you or something. Or, I don't know, maybe it's just some kind of regulation thing that I'm not aware of. Maybe it's some kind of policy thing. But I would think it would make more sense to keep your lights on if you were derailed. Okay, the destination sign doesn't seem to be impeded by the script being placed in different locations. So it doesn't seem to matter the order that the lines of text are in. They just have to be in the right basic area in the script, because the destination sign still works perfectly fine. And so far, everything else that I've tested. This test is to see if the game still knows how to switch the headlights properly. So far it's working. The front car has its headlights on and the rear car has the tail lights on. Man, I hate that horn. Interestingly, for this train, you actually have to be in the cab to change the direction. I'm not really sure if that's a game-related thing or if that's a script-related thing, because I don't remember that ever being a thing. But the script is working. It switched the headlights when I changed direction. Now let's couple these train cars together to see if it turns the headlights off in the center cars. It worked. It actually turned the headlights off for the center cars. So apparently, you can change the order that the lines of text in a script are in, and it won't affect the script at all. This is a really annoying glitch. In the past, the game actually had derailment physics, but they completely got rid of those. Apparently, it was because they had to choose between that and another feature that they were adding, so they chose to get rid of the derailment features as it wasn't as important. It's kind of boring without the derailment physics, though. Okay, so I've learned two things about scripting so far. One of them is that parameters are placed inside parentheses, and the other one is the game does not seem to care which order you put the lines of text in.